Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 7, the final part of Bub Snow and the Burly Bear Scare by Carol Wallace and Bill Wallace. Part 7, the final part. And we left on a cliffhanger the last time. I don't really like leaving on cliffhangers, but it had been 24 minutes. And we are to the final chapter, which is Lucky Chapter 13. And we're going to just jump right back into this, shall we? There's only one chapter left. Growling and snarling, Burly slapped at the dangling legs. Branches cracked, pine needles flew through the air. Just at the last second, Jesse tucked his knees up out of Burly's reach. Eyes big, he used every bit of strength to pull himself higher in the small pine and away from those long, sharp claws. Burly was big. No, he was huge. He was mean and nasty. I could just barely see Jane's bright fur up high in the pine tree, but I could hear her cries and whimpers. Jane was little and sweet. She was always nice to me and Mother. She never even hurt us. All she did was feed us hay. She was so tiny and Burly was so big. And the huge bear took another swipe at Jesse's dangling legs. Once more he managed to pull them out of reach. Jesse fed me hay too. He left the giant leaf here by the pond so I could slide and play, and snarling and snapping, Burly grabbed the trunk of the little tree and shook it again. I felt my eyes squint. The muscles in my shoulders and legs drew up tight and hard. This wasn't right. The two little people animals were sweet and gentle. They never did anything to that nasty old bear. It just wasn't right for him to try and hurt them. I charged. My feet dug into the snow. Puffs of white powder flew towards the sky. Hard and fast as I could, I raced towards the ferocious beast. At the last second, I lowered my head and rammed the mean monster right on his furry, hairy bottom. Harumph. I don't know what I expected. I guess I thought my mighty charge would send Burly tumbling away from the tree and backing away from Jane and Jesse. I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted him to leave the little people alone. He was supposed to get up, dust his fur off, and then run away. Only when I hit him, the big bear didn't budge. I did. My head hurt. Things kind of spun around, and I bounced backwards and went kerplop into the snow, back on my rump. I blinked a couple of times to get my eyes to stop rolling around in my head, ever so slowly, like he was looking for nothing. Let's see. More than a mosquito that landed on his fur. Burly turned. Oh, a moose. So you think you can take on Burly Bear, do you? His eyes narrowed to tiny slits. The little people animals are my friends. I tried to sound brave and strong as I struggled to pull my rump out of the snowbank. Why are you mad at them? They didn't do anything to you. Leave them alone. When Burly was just looking at me and licking his lips, I knew I was a goner. He lunged. I didn't have time to run. I didn't have time to dodge out of the way. Only his feet slipped in the snow. Even at that, he would have still gotten me if his shoulder hadn't bumped against the pine tree trunk. Crack and snap. Branches broke and more bent and then more bent and crunched. As the little boy people lost his grip and fell from the tree, Burly only took a step or two towards me when he heard the noise behind him. He spun around just in time to see Jesse land with a thud in the soft snow. The second he turned towards the boy, I lowered my head and rammed him again. This time, as soon as I butted him, I wheeled around and took off running. Look out, Moosey, Jane screamed from the pine tree. He's going to get you. Justin, hurry, climb back up the tree. I'll get you, Moose, Burly snarled. He was so close, I could almost feel his hot breath on the back of my legs. I ran harder. Burly growled. He was really mad now. I was in so much trouble. Let's see. Mommy, I honked. Help. It was too late. It's too late for your mommy to save you, Burly snarled at my heels. You're nothing but lunch now. Running as hard as I could, I managed to stay just ahead of the nasty old bear. Then suddenly the snow beneath my feet felt different. I couldn't get a hold of it. I couldn't run. All I could do was slip. My legs locked, but I still kept moving. I slid. Then I spun sideways. Then I was going around and around and around. I slowed to a stop just in time to see Burly come sliding past me, flat on his belly, with all four legs sprawled out. He swished right on by and plowed into the snowbank on the far side of the pond. It took him a second to pull his head out of the white powder. I tried to turn and run back towards the pine trees, only nothing happened. My feet spun and churned on the slippery ice, but I didn't go anywhere. Burly came towards me once more, only this time he didn't run. He took one slow step at a time. I tried harder to run away. Even running as fast as my legs would go, I still didn't get any place. Closer and closer, Burly closed the distance between us. He reared up on his hind legs. Slobbers dripped from his mouth. I trembled. He raised his huge paw. Sharp claws glistened. Then Burly's eyes flashed. He opened his enormous mouth as if he was going to let out his horrible roar. Instead, nothing came out but a little squeak. Confused, I tilted my head to one side. Burly squeaked again, then wheeled around. When he spun away from me, I saw the ball of white fur attached to his rump. It was Snow. Snarling and growling, the little white wolf dug his teeth into Burly's backside. "Run, bub," he mumbled. It was hard to understand him because of all the bear fuzz he had clamped between his teeth. "I got him, run." Burly turned his head to bite Snow, only when he turned his head, his back end turned too. Snow was just out of reach when the bear's enormous jaws snapped shut. Burly whipped around the other direction. Again, those sharp, nasty teeth just missed the little wolf. Burly reached back with his paw. I heard a little whimper as I saw Snow fly across the pond. Eyes tight and black as death, the huge bear turned back to me. I stared him square in the eye. No matter how mean and brave I tried to look, it didn't work. I was scared. The ice seemed to shake beneath my hooves. I blinked and yanked my eyes away from Burly. Behind him there was a movement. Something big and brown and fast came flying down the bank and across the pond. "Leave my baby alone," Mother honked. Almost before I even realized that it was her, Mother crashed into Burly. All three of us went whirling and spinning and sliding across the ice. We didn't stop until we crashed into this pile of snow-covered logs and sticks. In a heap, we landed tangled up against the big mound of limbs. I was on the bottom. Mother was on top of me, and Burly was. "Get off," a strange voice mumbled. Something wiggled beneath me. "What?" "Get off," it mumbled again. "You're smashing me. You're smushing me." It was Snow. I jerked and struggled, trying to get to my feet. Mother lunged and strained, trying to get off me. It was no use. We were so tangled with the logs and branches, and with one another, we could hardly move. Slowly, Burly wallowed to his feet. He licked his lips and smiled. "I'm in for a great meal. 2 moose, a wolf. Then when I finish up, there's the 2 little people, and I've had about enough of this. All winter long, it's the same old stuff. Knock my dam apart. Tear up my lodge. Stupid bear. I'm supposed to be sleeping, and he won't leave us alone. I'll probably end up as a beaver hat, but I'm not taking this anymore." The voice came from behind the pile of brush. 2 furry faces with long buck teeth popped out and glared at Burly. "Me neither. Let's get him." Chippy hopped over what was left of his beaver lodge and latched onto Burly's little stub tail. "Grrr," yelped Burly, yelped. "Oh, grrr, yelp." Burly slapped at Chippy. He finally hit him and sent him sailing across the ice. As soon as he did, Chippy's wife hopped up and chomped down on his little stub tail. Burly howled again. He knocked her off, too, but the moment he did, Chippy came hopping and bounding across the ice. Made of made a flying leap and latched onto that tail again. Then Joe Bob came flying across the ice and latched onto the little toe of the bear's left foot. Linda Sue got a hold of his right ankle. The big bear shifted from one foot to the other, trying to make the mad beavers and the ferocious otters stop nipping at him. Snow managed to wiggle out from under me. He got to his feet and bit the bear on the other leg, then hopped back out of reach. A rock flew through the air and clunked Burly on the head. Then another rock came flying. Then there were sticks and stones, and, Justin, you get back up the tree where it's safe. Okay, there we have Burly, and then there's all the animals attacking him. The people mother stood on the pond bank, throwing everything she could get her hands on at the nasty old bear. Jesse didn't mind his mother. He stood right next to her, throwing rocks and limbs at Burly as fast as he could throw. Mother struggled to her feet. She pawed the snow and ice. She lowered her head at Burly and honked. I hopped up and stood bravely beside her. Go on, get away from us, I ronked. Yep, yap, yap. Snow howled between nips at the old bear. Another rock clunked Burly on the head. Burly suddenly stood up, eyes crossed. He blinked a couple of times and looked around. The beaver's buck teeth were sunk into his tail. A white wolf leaped in and bit, then hopped out of the way. Another beaver and two otters bounded and pounced back across the pond towards the action. More rocks and branches flew through the air from the people on the bank, and a mother moose and a baby moose lowered their heads to charge. In the blink of an eye, the big bear whirled around and raced towards the far side of the pond. Chippy dropped from Burly's rear end at the edge of the ice. The big beaver puffed up his fur and stood staring at the escaping bear. As soon as he let go and waddled back towards the lodge and the rest of us, two wolves appeared from the trees. They charged after Burly, nipping and biting at his heels with every step he took. Chippy slapped his flat tail down on the ice. And let that be a lesson to you, you big ball of stinky bear fuzz. Come around here again and we'll gnaw you into little pieces. Chippy's wife looked very proud as she watched her husband. Yeah, if you ever show your stinking hide around here again, the whole bunch of us'll have bear stew for supper. Joe Bob brushed his front paws together and spat in the snow. As Burly disappeared into the edge of the trees, we could hear him mumble. I've never seen such a crazy place. No wonder I can't get any sleep. First off, the people come in and build a ski lodge over my den. Then I'm attacked by a baby moose and a baby wolf. They're supposed to be afraid of bears, not attack them. Even the people don't run away like they normally do. They start throwing rocks. A mama moose tries to run over me. Then on top of all that, two stinking little beavers start gnawing on my tail like it's a willow tree. And a couple of otters try to chew my toes off. That's it. I've had it. I'm out of here. Snow's mother and father nipped at his heels as he ran. And don't come back either, they howled. Everyone watched the far mountainside. At last, we saw Burly's huge lumbering form as he broke from the trees and raced across the white snow-covered clearing. One of the wolves still chasing him. Snow's mother trotted across the frozen pond and stood next to her son. She sniffed him all over to make sure that he was all right, and then she stood to watch. The huge, nasty, scary old bear was nothing more than a brown speck by the time he finally disappeared over the crest of the mountain. As Burly vanished forever, Snow's daddy came trotting out of the trees. Sorry we were so late getting here, Snow. Your mother and I came as quickly as we could. I guess you were doing okay, though. You guys had things under control and didn't even need... He stopped talking. His eyes popped open big and his mouth gaped. Head tilted to one side. I couldn't help but wonder what he was staring at. I looked around. Jesse and Jane stood right next to me. Their mother was right behind them. My mother and Snow's mother stood on my other side. Snow was so close he was practically under my hooves. In front of us, Joe Bob and Linda Sue watched as Chippy and his wife began to rebuild their lodge. When Mother looked around, her eyes got big and her ears stood straight up. I guess she didn't realize she was standing so close to the people and the wolves. Jane and Justin's mom's eyes flashed wide. Oh, so this is kind of what's happening right here. So that's what's happening. So Jane and Justin's mom's eyes flashed wide. 2. The breath kind of caught in her throat and she made a strange sound when she swallowed. One slow, cautious step at a time, the mothers backed away. Snow's mother went to the far side of the pond and stood next to Snow's father. My mother moved to the edge of the trees. The people mother, holding Jane and Jessie by the hands, moved towards the safety of the pines. No one said a word. For a long time, all 3 of our mothers watched. The people mother finally broke the silence. Her smile was gentle when she cupped a hand beside her mouth. "Thank you," she called. Snow's mother wagged her tail. My mother wobbled her ears and nodded. Each looked at the other, quietly shaking their heads as they all walked away. I looked down at Snow. "Want to play on the slide again?" He flipped his tail. Then, with a little glint in his eyes, he jumped up and hit me on the rump with his paw. "Tag, you're it." And that's how it ends. And we're going to read about the author here because we have time. It says here, about the author. Carol Wallace and Bill Wallace finished this story on the day they celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary. Parents of 3 children, they live on a farm in southwest Oklahoma, the last place anyone would go to find a moose. But if one were to go to the neighbor's house, a short walk across the pasture, Nikki, Carol, and Bill's daughter will be more than happy to show her collection. Also, a published author, Nikki has been finding moose for over 15 years, some she even found in Oklahoma. Both former educators, Bill was principal and PE teacher at the same school he attended as a child. Carol taught 2nd grade for 26 years. She now writes full-time, travels and speaks with her husband at schools and conferences. Oh, and I guess that's it. That has been Bub Snow and the Burly Bear Scare. And I guess there's something on the back. But yeah, that's that is the book. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, all that information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.